Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin on Tuesday, July 26, 2022. And I'm going to see if I can get Linux graphics working under Windows 10, under the Windows Subsystem for Linux 2, under an LXD container, under the VcXsrv server. So I'm always running that by default. So if we go over here, if we look here, you'll see I actually have VcXsrv. I actually have VcXsrv running here. Now, once you have it running correctly, it's very difficult, almost mysterious to get it to, show you how it all got set up. But once you download it from the internet, and there's a choice of two, and this is only something you have to do for Windows 10, right? Because this is unnecessary on Windows 11. Because of WSLG is, I think, how they pronounce it, which is just the fact that, WSL supports graphics on Windows. I guess that should be a sub point here. WSL supports graphics on Windows 11, but not Windows 10. And given how, many people have not taken up Windows 11 yet, but want to have Linux running side by side with their Windows 10, you might as well have the ability to get your graphics. So of the two programs, there's the one I'm talking about now, which is still on SourceForge. Go you guys. Some of the last holdouts of popular software that haven't moved to GitHub yet. So here is the other one, Xming. And either one of them is fine. I use this one. And when you download it, you actually have to install it and get it set up and everything, which would be a whole video in itself, except suffice to say, I guess if I do a Control-Alt-Delete here to bring up Task Manager, you can see under my startup items that I have this item here running, config.launch. That's actually one of the configuration files that gets output by that program. And so how in the world do you get to that program? I don't even think it has an installer. I'm pretty sure I had to drag copy it into my program files. So I bring up Explorer. Maybe I'll bring up Explorer. There we go. And on this computer, your C drive, your program files, there. See, I knew I think I either ran an installer or I just drag copied it into location, one or the other. But at any rate, it's not the server itself, but it's this launch program that you run, and then this steps you through creating a configuration file, which at the end you have to put it somewhere, save configuration, and that creates one of those X launch files, and then you can put that into this crazy long location where you can drop things to auto start on startup. So this is how you auto start things on startup. So that's a bonus of this video. If you're not familiar with Windows having, under this enormously long path, your users, your username, app data, roaming, Microsoft, Windows, start menu, programs, startup. If you put things in that enormously long location here, they'll run on startup. And so that's how I have this X server running on startup all the time. And so what is the upside of that? I can do things like open a terminal and type xeyes. And there's XIs. Sometimes it doesn't come up on top and you have to struggle a little to get it on top. But, you know, this is, you know, Linux graphics right here. This is graphics coming from Linux. And I guess there's other things like Xcalc for slightly more serious applications. And there's a few other things that get installed with this. I forget exactly what it is, but I've installed it here on my Linux root system or host system, Helis at Lunderwand. And if I make this a little smaller and do LXC list, you'll see the containers that I have running. And I have this container running called Looking Glass, and I can get into that by LXC execute against Looking Glass, the command switch user, login, the Ubuntu user. And so you can see my requester just changed from Helis at Lunderwand to Ubuntu at Looking Glass. So I am in a container right now. If I were to try and run XIs, can't open display. All right, so the little bit of magic fairy dust that I did, now if I exit out of that, the little bit of magic fairy dust that I did is actually done here in a environment variable called display. Okay, so this I'm writing out to an environment variable here, which somehow gets, you know, picked up by VcXsrv. VcXsrv looks at that, and what this is it's a name server, and that name server is put in that environment variable every time I start a new command line from my home bash profile. So I have a home bash profile file, and this line here exports to the display variable the output of this crazy command here, which I'll copy into my copy buffer. And I'll paste it in. And you'll see just running it is quite invisible. But if I were to get rid of the parts of this that are actually the setting of the display and keep just the command part of it, you would see it outputs that number, right? That's that number. So you would think that I could just use this whole line on the logged in container. So first I take a look at its display. You can see it's set to nothing. I run this command. I look at the display. It's now set to this number, which is different from this number. You see that? That number there, different from that number there. So the name server that's being used on the container is different from the name server IP being used on the host. So I have actually earlier, and by scrolling through this, I'm going to give away a fair amount about this, but you can see I let's see where it is. One of my sudo apt install commands to get the X programs here. You can see I sudo apt installed the X11 apps, right? So they're already installed. I could try to do it again. It'll show me they're already installed. So from here inside the container, I should be able to do XEYES. But no, it can't open XIs through this this address. Okay, but there is this other address here. So it occurred to me that this stuff could be built so that it could pass it up, pass the baton up, and if it's still accessible to that network up there, the 172 network, that if I set the display variable equal to this, I did that wrong. Display equals just like that, then I should be able to do xeyes. Oh, can't open that. Oh yeah, because it's not the full thing. It has this :0 at the end of it on this command here. So I just put :0 xeyes. Bam! I do believe this may be one of the first times this has been demonstrated on the internet. This is Linux graphics. Under a container, under an LXD container, under Windows Subsystem for Linux. Alright, so there's various things I could do from here. I really don't want to hardwire display equals into the bashrc of my container, because that could very well change. Now there's some slimy solutions to fix this. But if I go into the bashrc, now if I do a cd ... to get to my home location and do an ls, I'll remind you that this data location is a network drive that cuts across all my systems now, right? So when I do database read-write stuff, it all gets updated in there. And because of that commonality between all my systems, I can go into my vim home.bash profile, and once I have this number, I export it, but I can very well just echo this to data nameserver.txt. I believe that'll do it. I'll cd into data, do an ls there. Oh, time to get rid of those, all of that. Why clear it when I'm about to exit it? Because I just want to force that bash profile to run again. Hopefully no errors. But now if I cd into ~/data, do an ls, there's nameserver.txt. I can take a look in there. Oh, look, there's no content in there. It's a bit disappointing. Do I have to use those parentheses? But before I even quit out of it, I can copy this, quit out of Vim, paste that there. Oh. So I want to echo the output of a command. Is that $sign there at the beginning necessary? It was. There it is. Okay. So we have the name server of the parent machine being written into a file, or shortly we will. So all I need to do is put in the $sign there. Exit. Go back in. No error, so it's going to be putting that there. Now if I go LXME, and then I vim its bash profile, I can export display equals. Now this has to be the import of that file, so I need to figure that out. That's a bash script. Import value from file. Oh. Bash script import single value from file. Still seems like the best search. How do I read a variable from a file? Source file name. Interesting. It seems like I should be able to just populate that variable by saying display equals and then just import that source file name, source. Interesting. Okay, so change of approach. You'll learn something. It's another source command, like right above it. That's data. Display.sh. All right. And so that means on the host machines, exporting of that I am actually exporting the appending together of things. Ugh. Do I append it? Ouch. I don't know Linux well enough. Shoot. Pause. Okay, I just did a little bit of experimenting and believe I came up with it. So that line goes here. Now I quit out. Now I cd into tilde/data, remove everything. There's nothing there. Exit. Go back into a terminal. cd into data, ls, vim that display. It looks like it has the command exactly as we want it to be. LXME, vim tilde/bash profile. Oh, it already did that. See, source data display.sh as I named it. So I should be able to echo display. And I can, which also means I should be able to excise from within this container after startup. And there it is. I've got graphics on my Linux containers under Windows Subsystem for Linux with extremely minimal compromise. It's a little bit hackish, but for now, I'm going to live with that. It's pretty neat to have Linux containers supporting graphics under Windows. And this is without using any special installed software besides the Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is now standard, and an XServer piece of software. I might be running it twice. Anyway, maybe if I X out of that, does it go back to just one showing there? No, it's still showing two. I'm sure that's from what I was doing earlier with explaining this, showing how to create the yeah, this one has, it's hard to say. I'm going to try exiting. See if there's still the one running there. Go back here and do excise again. Yeah, I quit the wrong server. But you get the idea, you get the relationship between all the different pieces here. And I think that covers a lot of the stuff people are extremely curious about with graphics under the Windows Subsystem for Linux. And in this case, under a container, under an LXD container. So I went the whole distance. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. And don't forget to subscribe.